we ready? Good morning. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, August 20th at 9:05 on that clock, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'm going to begin by introducing our board members and staff. With me today are my fellow board members. To my far left, Dee Dee Adamo. To her right, Vice Chair Franz Spivey Weber, and to my right, Member Tam Doduck. Mr. Howard.
Yes, thank you. Assisting the board today are Janine Townsend and Courtney Davis, and to my left is Chief Counsel Michael Laufer, and to my right, Chief Deputies Karen Turgovich and John Bishop.
Great, and welcome back. As many of you know, we have an emergency procedure. If you hear a loud, I don't even know what it sounds like, fortunately, but when you hear something that sounds like an emergency kind of a thing, leave. Know which way you're going, take your stuff, obey traffic signals when you cross the street, and then in Cesar Chavez Park, if you want to stay there, you'll find out when we can come back. Otherwise, of course, you are free to go wherever you want to go and do whatever you want to do. The meeting is also being webcast and recorded, so please try and speak into the microphone. When you come up, it's a little temperamental, so you do have to get close to it to be heard, and I will demonstrate how to do it wrong, I'm sure, at least once in the course of the meeting. And most importantly, please turn off or turn the sound off your cell phones and other electronic devices, just so as not to disturb your neighbors. Our first item, fortunately, we love these, is a presentation of a Superior Accomplishment Award. So, Ms. Whitney, you're up.
Good morning, Chair Marcus and members of the board, executive staff. I'm very pleased today to present a Superior Accomplishment Award to Kevin Graves, who's supervising engineer in the Division of Water Quality. This award is for Kevin's work on the UST low threat closure policy that was adopted by the board about a little over a year ago. Kevin refers to this as his Lifetime Achievement Award.
Wait, you can't leave after this, though. That's a nice try, but forget it.
So Kevin started working on this issue in 1994 when he was staff at Region 2. In 1996, Region 2 adopted what's sort of a precursor to this policy. And then apparently MTBE raised its head and derailed things for about a decade. So, as you know, in 2010, the fall of 2010, our executive director decided to rotate all the division chiefs. So I got rotated into DWQ, and a couple months after that, I think it was around November, John Bishop came to me and he said, well, we're going to do a septic tank policy and we're going to do a UST policy, and you're going to do one and I'm going to do the other one. So which one do you want? So I went and I talked to staff, and they told me stay far away from the UST policy because it was a death knell.
Really?
Well, apparently these stars finally aligned, and much of the prior work that was done by Kevin and by James Giannopoulos and staff through the years finally came to fruition. And I want to acknowledge Board Member Doduck for that, because she kept all of our little noses to the grindstone. And Tom gave me 4 months to get this policy, to come back to him and report whether the policy was doable or not. So we convened a stakeholder committee, and we met every 2 weeks, alternating between Oakland and Sacramento for the duration of that 4-month period. And at the end of 4 months, we had a draft policy that pretty much looks like what you see today. There have been a few wording changes. So I reported to Tom, yeah, we were going to be successful, I thought. And then we spent about the next 9 months to a year doing the CEQA document and having some stakeholder meetings and other things that we needed to do in order to engage the public and get the policy adopted. And then the board adopted the policy. So I want to acknowledge all of the work that went into that, and I want to acknowledge work that is still going into the implementation of the policy. Tam had asked us to make some revisions to GeoTracker in order to implement policy and track our performance on implementing the policy. And I'm really happy to say it looks like that contract is finally going to be approved by the Department of General Services, although Karen has a funny look on her face, so I hope she's not going to disappoint me.
No funny looks, Karen.
Okay, we're good. And then the other thing that we're working on is cleaning up some internal processes. You know, we're frequently criticized for not being very efficient. We have some vestigial internal processes that we're working on cleaning up so that we can actually work on petitions that we might get a little faster. We're working with OCC on those matters. So even though this award is the culmination of the policy adoption, it's not the culmination of the work. There's lots of work that goes on afterwards. And so I also want to recognize the Division of Financial Assistance staff and Kevin's staff for their efforts in that continuing work. But right now I'd like to bring Kevin up and give him his award, and I'd like to thank Tam.
I think
And
I think Tam has a few words to say.
A couple of months ago when the board met in Monterey, you know, after the board meeting, we were all sitting around in the hotel, and I got an email from Tam a few days after that that said, "Did we ever recognize Kevin?" And we hadn't, so, you know, I'm ashamed. So thank you, Tam, for your leadership, and thank you for reminding me that it's always good to recognize our staff.
well, thank you, Vicki. And let me take a few seconds, not minutes.
You may have
and-
as long as you like.
Thank you. And add my notes of thanks to Kevin and to all the staff and stakeholders really who helped us on the low threat closure policy, both in development as well as now the hard task of implementation. But let me also take a moment and acknowledge Vicki's hard work. She, you know, very graciously acknowledged everyone else and glossed over her own participation. But I attended some of those bi-weekly meetings with Kevin's staff and the stakeholder group, and Vicki did a tremendous job of keeping everyone on track, of, you know, meeting Tom's not quite meeting, but, you know, close to the deadline. And we couldn't have done it without her leadership and her guidance and just her steering of that effort. So Vicki, even though I can't give you an award, I want to also acknowledge your hard work, your leadership, and you're a very important part in making the low threat policy successful. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to say I knew nothing about underground storage tanks when I took on that job. So as Charlie noted in his parting words, I'm a taskmaster, I guess, and it was easy to crack the whip because I didn't have to worry about the technical details. Anyway, I want to recognize Kevin. This is his award. Present it to him.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, thank you all for coming today. It really does mean a lot to me to be recognized in this way. As you've heard from these comments, there was a lot of people involved in making it happen, but I think it also shows the value of preparation, that I did prepare for 15 years so I knew all the issues, I knew all the players, and getting an award like this inspires me to continue tilting at windmills, and maybe 15 years from now I can have another success. Thanks a lot.
Great way to start. We're now on to the public forum, and the board will hear from any person wishing to speak about any matter that is not pending before the board. And I do have some, but I think they're dependent on what we do with something else on the calendar, right? These are actually for the item. They aren't. Okay, perfect. Okay. Anybody? Nobody's inspired. Okay. Fine. Now we're going to consider the minutes from the July 23rd and the August 6th board meeting. We have to take them up separately because different people missed different ones. Do I have
And
motion on the, yeah.
Madam Chair, when you get to the August 6 minutes, I do have one addition. When I was conducting my review last night, I had missed one thing in my notes, which is on item number 5 on the August 6 board meeting, which is the groundwater, or the board priorities and groundwater discussion from the August 6 board meeting. There were 2 commenters, Greg Zlotnick with the San Luis and Delta Mendota Water Authority and Bob Gore from the Gualco Group. So we'll make sure the clerk, assuming the board adopts the minutes, incorporates that change into them.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Do I have a motion for the July 23rd?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? That's
Aye.
3 of us. We're good.
Abstain.
She abstains. Okay, and next for the August 6th board meeting, which I need to abstain from because I wasn't there.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, with the correction.
Second with the correction.
Okay, are we good?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Good, okay. Now it's time for my fellow colleagues if they have any reports to make. Anyone? I have one for once.
I have, Region 9, San Diego region, will be moving offices, and so they are going to be dark for the next 2 months in terms of board meetings, but not dark in terms of activity. And I think it's going to be very interesting. All the staff are all going out to do inspections. They're essentially getting out with people who are specialists in the region on the ecology of the region. And so it's going to be, I think it's going to be a real refreshing time for them as they go out, and I look forward to joining them, at least some. And I'd encourage all of you, if you have some time, to get down there.
Well, I would like to report that I had a really exciting tour of Mono Lake. It had been 15 years since I had been there, so it was really exciting to see some of the changes, but of course spent more time in a different focus. The Mono Lake Committee took me out on a tour, went kayaking on the lake and took a look at all the 4 streams, and then had a very good discussion, and this is the main point that I wanted to update you all on, in case you don't already know. But Mono Lake Committee, along with the Department of Public Works, is in the process of working through the settlement process to implement the 2010 synthesis report. And by all accounts, it appears that the conversations have been very productive, and the parties they've tentatively agreed on most of the terms, and it appears that they will be able to meet the September 30th deadline. The devil's in the details, of course, and they still have some more work to do, so this is not an announcement of any kind, except more just to report on the progress. So things look like they're moving in the right direction.
That's great. Anything? The only, I've been trying to catch up on all of the, oh, it is on, I'm just not close. See, I just demonstrated how not to do it. I have been trying in the past month to catch up with all the field trips people have asked me to do that I haven't done over the course of the year, and so I won't report on all of them, but there were a couple that I did want to mention for my colleagues' sake. If you haven't been yet, on, I don't know, last week, which day is it? I think the week before last, I went with the LA Sanitation Bureau of the Department of Public Works and saw the progress on low-impact development projects that the city is doing under Proposition O. The city of LA is doing a lot of the kind of low-impact development, bioswales, biofilters, stormwater capture, joint flood control, water quality, water supply projects that they're not being forced to do. They're doing it because the city residents tax themselves half a billion dollars to try and do this, to both protect water quality, augment green space, and demonstrate some cutting edge thinking. And I just want to encourage any of you, even if you went and saw a couple of them a number of years ago, the Sun Valley Elmer Street project being one of the key ones. I know Board Member Spivey Weber has been to probably all of the ones that I went to see. I would just encourage everyone else to try and go, because you see the art of the possible in a context where we're not making anybody do anything. They're doing it because it's the future, the right way to go with scarce public dollars, and the kind of thing that's happening already all over the state around Tahoe as well. Tahoe is probably cutting edge on stormwater treatment using natural systems. And so it was just inspiring to see what people are doing, whether forced or not. It really is a view of the future that is a pretty happy one for cities across the state, and hopefully will inspire us as we move on to our next phase of figuring out how to incentivize multi-benefit projects. So that was probably the thing that I wanted to share the most. The other was just that I had the opportunity to be at the Tahoe Annual Summit again this year. It's something I was involved in the original summit 16 years ago, and used to go a lot, and now I've been able to go back on our behalf. And Senators Reid from Nevada, Senator Feinstein from California co-chair it every year. The governors of both states were there. Vice President Al Gore was there this time as an alum, and it just, again, is it has its moments up and down. There have been moments of great collaboration in the Tahoe Basin across the private sector, governments, and environmental groups, and there have been moments of tension, and we saw a little bit of some of that tension when we reviewed the 208 plan earlier this year, and it was just great to see how far the players have come. We're in a moment of agreement on a lot of things, as well as the private sector raising millions of dollars to help augment things like bike trails and natural meadow treatment systems and all those sorts of things. It happens to be, it happened to be a, I won't say unreasonably, but a particularly happy day because the lake clarity is very good this year. The flip side is that maybe because we've had a couple dry years, so you haven't had as much sediment going in, but the trends look good. But it's actually a marathon and not a sprint up at Lake Tahoe. But it is another place where people are coming together on what I think is what we hope for the wave of the future in cross-stakeholder collaborations that have real practical application and achievement on the ground. That they're doing, where regulation plays a role in facilitating that collaboration, but isn't the driving force. It's the love of the lake that's the driving force. So I, again, encourage people to get up there and do the tours with our colleagues up in Tahoe as well. So 2 bright spots. Okay. Onward. We now have 3, we think, uncontested items 3 through 6. We have speakers for one of them if they are contested or anyone has any questions. We've been, I think, very well briefed on these items, and they're pretty good. And there's a change sheet, so we need to, here's the change sheet.
The change sheet is on item number 5.
Oh, that's on 5? Okay, does anybody have any questions on any of the items and want them pulled for discussion or questions?
Not a question, but I do want to take a moment and thank DFA staff. Don't know if other board members raised the issues, but I did, and they were able to address my concerns with the change sheet to item 5. So thank you, Ms. Loveland.
Those look good. That's great. All right, if there are none, do I have a motion?
So moved, with the change sheet on item 5.
Second.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are approved, and thank you for those of you who came in case we had questions. It's always nice to see you all, although I don't see you all. Where are you? I see your name, I don't see your face. Oh, there you are. Bye, Dave. Okay. Terrific. Next, we move to an informational item. Let's move to item number 7. Thank you for
go ahead. All right. So I'm Karen Larson. I'm the Deputy Director of the Office of Information Management and Analysis here at the State Water Board. And my office doesn't frequently have items before the board because much of the work that we do is in support of other water board programs. So we're really pleased to have some time on your agenda today to give you an overview of the last 4 years of monitoring for one of our statewide monitoring programs, the Stream Pollution Trends Program. And I have Dawit Tedessa here, the Senior Environmental Scientist and Program Manager over this program from the SWAMP program to give you the overview. So I'll turn it over to Dawit.
Good morning, board members. As Karen said, my name is Dawit Tedessa. I am a senior environmental scientist, specialist in OEMA. Part of my responsibility is to oversee the stream pollution trends monitoring program. So today, I'm going to present the findings we have for 4 years. Which one is that? This one?
No. Oh, there it goes.
Okay, my presentation is organized into 4 major sections. First, I'll give brief background for the project, and then I'll present 3 years results on toxicity, pollutant concentration, and the relationship between the toxicity and the pollutant concentration, and a relationship of the land uses to these contaminants. Then I will talk about future directions, what we are planning to do. Then I will conclude. There is a problem.
Can you just advance the slides? They'll advance the slides.
Okay.
There you go. You got it now?
Yeah, but
You're going the wrong way.
no. Oh, sorry. So lower is backward.
Just take us back to the. Can you take us back to the 3rd slide, please? There we go. We'll just have them advance it for us.
Yeah, but okay. So one slide back, please.
Go up. Hold on, got it. Yeah.
Okay,
let's flip
could
it.
you please do that?
So
Go to slide number 3.
to background, yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for mishaps. So the surface water monitoring program have 3 statewide monitoring programs. One of them is bioassessment. In that program, they sample macroinvertebrates and measure the assemblage of those macroinvertebrates to indicate water quality. The other one is bioaccumulation. In that project, they sample fish tissues by and large and animal tissues and measure pollutant concentration in the tissues. The third one is this one. This is stream pollution trends monitoring. In this one, we sample sediments and we measure the pollutant concentration in the sediments and measure toxicity in the sediments. So it is basically long-term trends monitoring program. When I say long-term, it means that in order to meet our goals and specific monitoring questions, we might need more years. But in the interim, we provide information to other state, regional, and local programs, such as TMDL, impaired water listing, they use our data, the My Water Quality web portals. They use our data to update their websites. So our funding sources are WDPF monitoring surcharges and US EPA. So sampling started for this program in 2008, and it is ongoing. So the goals, determine long-term trends in stream pollutants, concentration, and effects at the bottom of large watershed. This is one of the goals. The second goal is relate water quality indicators to land use characteristics and management efforts. And the third is to establish a network of sites throughout the statewide to serve as a backbone for collaboration with other local, regional, and federal monitoring. So all SWAMP programs are question-driven monitorings, including the regional ones. This one is also question-driven. These are the specific questions we want to answer by the end of the monitoring. So what are the concentration of pollutants in streams and sediments? In sediments, are sediment in stream-based toxics? And if so, what is the magnitude of toxicity? What is the contribution of land uses to pollutant concentrations and toxicity in the watershed? What is the magnitude of change in pollutant concentration and toxicity? These are the basic 4 questions we want to answer with this monitoring. Next slide, please. So monitoring design is based on USGS integrated site concepts. So these integrated sites are located at the bottom of large watersheds. And it accumulates pollutants from the upstream watershed. So sediments collected from these sites provide a composite record of pollutants mobilized from the watershed. So when we develop the monitoring plan for this program, we have involved a lot of interested parties. So we have a lot of coordination, and when we are selecting the sites, we have talked to different entities. So the major participants are regional board SWAMP programs. All regional board SWAMP programs have participated in site selections. Region 2 municipal regional permit program, Region 3 cooperative monitoring program, Region 5 irrigated lands regulatory program, RMPs, Southern California Stormwater USGS, Europe. All these have participated either in resources and selecting the sites. Next one. So in the monitoring, also we have incorporated reference sites for the sake of quality assurance, and in the absence of land use impact, we'll be able to understand the temporal trend of water quality. Because of that reason, we have included reference sites. So these reference sites are spread over 5 watersheds. So the northern, central, and southern and coastal areas. And this is what this slide shows. Please go to the next. So these are the monitoring sites. So 9 regional boards, and in 2008 we have 92, 2009 23, 2095, in 2010, and 2011 we have 100 sites. So as you can see, in 2009 we have only 23 sites. That is because of a budget cut. Next slide. So this map shows the spread of our monitoring sites. The black dots are the monitoring sites. The 5 green dots are our reference sites. And the background color is the land uses. There are too many, like over 30 of them, but we have divided these 30 land uses into 3 major land uses for our analysis. I'll talk that about later. Move on. So these are our indicators. Number one, it is toxicity with the standard species. Currently used pesticides. We measure legacy pollutants and metals. So the statistical analysis we used is the TSCT, the USCPS test of significant states. Then we divided the sites into non-toxic sites, the sites with some toxicity, and sites with high toxicity. Also, we grouped the pollutants and summed together for the sake of analysis. So this is the results from reference sites. As you can see, in the 5 of the reference sites in 2008, 9, and 10, the green one shows that the toxicity, there is no toxicity in those sites. As you can see, in 2010, we have 1 toxic site. So those 2 non-monitoring sites started because it is in 2009, we didn't monitor on those sites. So basically, our reference sites are clean. This is the results from the monitoring sites. So as you can see, the non-toxic sites and toxic sites from 2008 to 2011, if you add up the yellow and the green bars for the 4 years, it is pretty much consistent. Toxicity has not increased, except in 2009 where you see a lot of toxic sites. That is because of the small sampling size. This is the distribution of toxicity for 4 years average. 66% of the sites, the samples are not toxic, then 27% toxic and 7% highly toxic. And the map shows their distribution. Okay, this is results for chemical pollutant concentration. Pyrethroid pesticides have increased. Legacy pollutants like DDT, PCB, organophosphates have gone down. And PAH, PBDs, and metals have remained constant in the 4 years. This is a correlation of the chemicals with toxicity. As you can see, in 2008, you see a lot of correlations with many of the toxicities correlated to many of the pollutants. In 2009, it is a weak correlation. There is correlation, but it is very weak. So in 2010, we have like 4 pollutants correlated to toxicity: pyrethroids, DDT, PBDE, and PCBs.
And so what do you draw from that?
Can you say it again?
What conclusion do you draw from that in terms of sources or the...
It is really too early now to conclude, but from the detailed data, when you look at it, we see a lot of pyrethroids in the data sets.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just add that when you do a toxicity test,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot tell what is causing toxicity. So
Right.
you move forward doing chemical analysis and also an evaluation called a toxicity identification evaluation. This is one step in that TIE process where you compare the levels of the chemical and correlate that with the level of toxicity. So this is really a real cursory investigation into what's causing the toxicity in the sediments.
But is it significant or just interesting that the metals don't seem to have as high of a correlation as the last time we had a bunch of correlations? Why would that be?
Well, if you combine all of the 8 metals that we sampled, you don't get a correlation. If you pull out the 4 that you see there, cadmium, copper, lead, and zinc, we do get a correlation. So it starts
in
to
08.
point us to, yes, in 08 only.
Yeah, and then my question is, why not in 10?
It didn't, well, in 2009,
That's what I'm trying to
I would
figure out.
argue we didn't have enough samples
Right.
to make a correlation. In
Right.
2010, it may be the importance of metals was much reduced compared to the other chemicals in the sediments.
Yeah, but the question, reinforced that we need a long-term monitoring. We cannot tell with few years monitoring, really, because as you can see, the detection of the chemicals is up and down from year to year.
Right, you need long-term trends in order to be able to see a directional
Yes.
change or pinpoint your most important source. So we'd have to look at this over quite a few years in order to see
Quite
it.
a
But
few years, I have a slide for that towards the end. Okay, results, toxicity trends by regional boards. This is toxicity trends by regional. No toxic or highly toxic sites were found in region 6. Toxic sites increased in regions 1, 4, 5, 7, and 8. Toxic sites decreased in region 2. No change was observed in region 3 and 9. Pollutant concentration, again, by regions. With the exception of pyrethroids, all other pollutant groups decreased in concentration in all regions. In 2010, PCBs were not even detected in regions 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, and DDT was not detected in regions 1 and 6. Pyrethroid concentration increased in regions 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and remained almost the same region 2, decreased in region 1 and 3. You know, it is back to your question, you know, it is not really conclusive. We cannot conclude anything at this early stage.
you
We
can
have-
just observe what you observe.
Yes, yes.
And so you can certainly in cocktail party or lunch chatter
Yeah.
hypothesize what might be happening there. And if you see a decrease, for example, the fact that we still have DDT out there is an indication of its long life and it's still there from as a legacy pollutant, as well as it's obviously possible that people are illegally using it in some places. But if it has changed and it wasn't detected, does that suggest that the legacy has just been washed out in those areas, or in that particular year it wasn't mobilized by something in a given stream? Because if it's in the sediments, sometimes it's going to be mobilized, say by suction dredge mining or something, and other times it's not. So it could be, right? So it's hard to say why you might not detect it. You want to, it's just as I was saying with the Tahoe sediment clarity issue, it's just you want to say things are getting better because it's washing out through the system, but maybe not.
Right. Yeah, and only time will tell as we look at over time the trends and what's going on. But this is important piece, which is to link up what we're observing with management actions and other information on the landscape, which is we've started to do, and Deweed will talk about the land use piece in a minute, but linking up with those other programs like irrigated lands and stormwater programs to look at, you know, what's going on there as well.
Can I want to follow up. I think that is the right thing to do. I think as I think about the questions that were asked by the senators and the governors at Tahoe, I mean, one of the questions is, as we start to pull together, how do we integrate what we think might be happening and also figure out how to target all of our programs towards the most significant contaminants of concern for public health and environmental benefit. And I think we are in that era of figuring out how to integrate all of that without being so complex it makes your head explode. Right, that's sort of where we are. Okay.
For land use classification, we have delineated the monitoring site area into 3 scales. There is 1 kilometer scale. The small semicircle area you see above the red dot is a 1 kilometer radius. And then there is a 5 kilometer radius semicircle area, drainage area, and then there is a watershed. We basically divided the monitoring area into, or based on this scale. So go to the next slide. So based on that, we classified the land uses. Urban is when greater than 10% of urban land use. Then for agriculture, we say if it is greater than 10% cultivated crop, we say it is agriculture. The rest that does not meet these criteria are classified as others. Next one. So this is the result we get for land uses for 2008 and 2010, based on 1K area, 5K area, and watershed area. As you can see, there is no much difference between 2008 and 2010. So the land use for agriculture and urban based on those 3 drainage areas remained the same. So we go to the result. The result is this one, correlation of toxicity to land uses. In 2008, we have, for urban, there is some correlation with 1K and 5K. For agriculture, we got only for watershed level. In 2010, we get correlation for at all scales. So 2009, because of, again, with the smaller sample sizes, correlation is very weak. So correlation of pollutants concentration to land uses, because the chemicals are too many, I presented it here in words. In all 3 years, pollutants were highly correlated to urban land use. DDT was highly correlated with agricultural land use at all 3 scales in 2010. Metals were correlated to urban land use at all scales in all 3 years. Next one. So this is one example for pyrethroid. We have made several of these kind of graphics in the main report, but this is just an example for agriculture and urban land use on pyrethroid concentration. As you can see in both land uses, pyrethroid concentration is increasing from 2008 to 2010.
If you were going to look at a decrease in organophosphates, would you see that as just a product substitution?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought was
Yeah.
happening there.
But we wouldn't anticipate seeing organophosphate pesticides in high concentrations in sediment. They're mostly water column soluble pesticides, so I don't think it would be meaningful.
Oh, no, I'm just trying to figure out what's happened, and I know there's been a substitution because of.
Yeah, we'd have to look at the water column measurements for organophosphate.
So you could even just say because of the substitution, you're seeing more toxicity of the pyrethroids,
Possibly.
but there wouldn't be a corresponding lower because it has a different fate and transport.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
And in terms of metals and urban, is that largely from automobile traffic? I mean, what is the
So
principal source of metals in the urban environment?
yeah. Yeah,
Automobiles.
and
That was my
yeah.
my thought, but okay.
Yeah. But the mercury, there is mercury mining too.
Well, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. Okay, future direction. We're going to review the analyte list we are using now. So we will add some new emerging pollutants. Pollutants with decreasing trends will be monitored every 2 years. We continue working closely with other programs to integrate data with the other, like the macroinvertebrate sampling and so on. And conclusion, sport is a foundation for long-term monitoring in the state. And we are trying to relate chemistry, toxicity, and land use. So this will answer key management questions and evaluate the effectiveness of some of the regulatory programs. However, the ability of the program to detect trends and the results of management activities will only be realized when sampling is done for a longer period of time and with an adequate number of samples. So at least we estimate we need more than 90 sites annually. And to answer those questions we raised, at least we need approximately 10 years.
Do you see any? Thank you. Great. Since the
I have
funding.
one slide, acknowledgement slide.
Oh, do that.
Then we'll
It's always
finish.
nice to acknowledge people. Go ahead before I ask more questions.
Yeah, I would like to acknowledge our researchers, Brian Anderson and Brim Phillips, Katie Sigler and Jennifer Vuris. So Brian and Brin have a lot of experience in this field. They have worked in toxicity and the pollutant area over 20 years. We are glad that they are part of our team. The Science Advisory Committee also, they meet every year to give us guidance. Our partners and commenters, those people have contributed resources and they have been commenting on our monitoring plans, reports, and so on. So I would like to acknowledge this group of people for this project. Okay, thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Some great people on that list, too. One question, obviously, being able to do it is critical. Funding is critical, as you showed by the bad year of funding chart. And you said that the funding came from the waste discharge permit fees and US EPA. Any concern over that from EPA since their budget's getting whacked this year and they're all on furloughs? Or can we kind of count on this funding for at least the near
We
term?
sustained a minimal, we as in the SWAMP program, the overall 106 grant did sustain some cuts because of sequestration. Our portion of that was relatively minimal on one of the line items for this. So this year we're good, but I cannot predict the future. And so we'll see what our allocation will be into future years. Just in general, the federal program funds the infrastructure for the program, data management, QA/QC, those kinds of things, as well as the 3 statewide programs. Our state funding largely funds the monitoring that the SWAMP program does at the regional level.
Interesting.
One addition I would suggest for future presentations, we're getting a lot of good experience with monitoring and and our confidence in being able to make recommendations based on it. We have the beach program with bacteria. We have Tahoe. There are a number of programs where we've really, I think, learned a lot and are applying that learning. And so somewhere at the beginning of future presentations, it just seems to me it would be worth acknowledging some of these programs on which we're building as we pursue this program, and presumably there'll be other programs to follow, because it's going to be extremely important for climate change, and we just need to be able to document our what we've learned and how, what we're doing with what we've learned. Thank you.
Questions or comments?
I'm looking at the several maps, slide 7, slide 9, and slide 14, and just trying to make more sense out of them. So the reference sites refer to what exactly? Because I'm looking at all the toxicity samples, or those sites. How do the sites for the samples relate to the reference sites?
The reference sites will be analyzed together with all the sites, but it will give us the actual situation of water quality if there is no impact from pollutants. So, yeah. So those are representative reference sites.
Okay. And then on slide 14, what can you say, if anything, about the red dots, the highly toxic sites? What's going on there? Are there any trends that you see, or these are just sites that you would have expected?
No, these are actual sites which have shown high toxicity. Some of them have repeated, with the 3 years, but not all of them.
So if you look at where the red sites are, they're in urbanized areas and agricultural drainages. So that's consistent with the connection we made in later slides between toxicity and land use.
So for example, down on the border, that's probably a metals toxicity pit.
Possibly. I mean, we'd have to dig down into the specific sites with the specific chemical analysis for that site to get into that detail.
Without having you do too much work, it'd be nice to send us a follow-up on those particular red dots this year and where they are, because then and a guess. We won't hold you to it or say it's scientifically significant, but that actually, I agree, that's a very good question
So I
to ask.
can take a guess right now. You got the
good.
Tijuana River at the bottom. You've got
Yeah.
Santa Ana River, and as you go up,
That looks like it. What's the one?
looks like
What is
LA doesn't have any highly toxic spots. That surprises me. Then you go on up there. That looks like the Delta up at the middle of the.
But on the coast on the middle, which bay is that?
I
That's
don't-
like
That's
near
Santa Barbara.
Cruz or
That's
something.
that's the what's the river the
Yeah,
Santa
I
Ne-
can't think of the name of it, that's why.
So we
There's
actually
Santa
have
Ynez.
Brian Anderson, our principal investigator, here in the room, and he's confident that he can tell you exactly where those sites
Good.
are
Okay.
and
Spot
what
the
the
dot, yeah.
what the source.
Can you do
is.
that? That'd
Come,
be
come,
great.
no, come up to the mic.
Thanks. Again, won't hold you to it, just,
Most of the red dots are driven by pesticides, and it's perithroid pesticides for the most part. I'd say the trends in perithroid detections in this program are about 70 to 80% of our 100 sites have perithroids detected in them. And almost all of these that have significant toxicity over time are driven by high perithroid concentrations.
right. So that would suggest,
So
that would suggest that we should be focused on pyrethroids with our friends at DPR.
Well, we are. In fact, DPR is a partner in this program now. They're chipping in money to do intensive monitoring at 4 urban sites, and that's to try to see if their recent implementation of label changes on commercial use of perithroids is going to affect change in perithroids. So we have 4 watersheds where they're helping us with funding to do intensive monitoring.
and what are those? What watersheds?
It's Salt Creek in Laguna Niguel. It's Kirker Creek up in Region 2. It's Pleasant Grove Creek in Region 5. And then Bouquet Creek, which is one of those red dots there in the LA region, is the other one.
Interesting.
So I'm looking in the interior. One looks like, well, where's the site in, looks like Stanislaus County? And then northwest of that, San Joaquin? I can't tell.
And you're wondering about those sites as well?
Mhm.
Yeah, well, so what, I don't want to go into, I don't want to stick my neck out too far on this without going back and looking at our data. But if you have specific sites you're interested in, we'd be happy. Most of that is detailed in the report. If you want us to just tease out details on specific sites, we're happy to do that. That's a big part of what our future analysis is going to be, trying to follow specific sites and specific regions over time to see what the trends are at select sites.
Yeah, I think a follow-up would be good on the specific sites. Yeah, thanks.
Great.
So let me make sure that I'm clear. You would like for all the red dots, where they're located and what the source of the toxicity is, and we'll look at it. That's a 4-year average, but we can look at it on a year by year to see if also, so that you can have the.
Right, and then we can go in and flip through the report to see if we have other questions individually.
That would be great.
This was a good teaser. This makes me want to see the whole report and flip through the pages. So that was a mission accomplished. That's good. Thank you. I'm glad you got to say something too.
Yeah, 2 of our reports are posted in our website for the public, and we will send those information to you.
Terrific.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks very much. All right, Mr. Howard.
So Karen's very proud of our international film status, and so I'll let her talk for a moment about Slow the Flow video.
Well, thanks. Well, actually, the thanks really goes to Greg Gerhardt and Margie Young. So Margie is in the Training Academy. Greg Gerhardt, you all know, in the Division of Water Quality. And they were able to work with a company over the last a number of years ago at very low minimal cost to produce a film that was really very educational, and it's actually aired on a large number of public broadcasting stations here in the state. It's now international. It's been aired in Brazil. It's been aired at various film festivals around the country as well. But I think the important part to recognize is the standing value, the long-standing value of this film for an educational piece. And so that's what we try to do, use this as a tool when we really have a broad community that we're trying to reach. There are a couple of additional very short very short videos that were being developed using some of the very same footage that was filmed. So we're reusing footage over and over. So the Training Academy and the division staff are working to try to develop some educational tools where we really have a broad audience that we're starting to trying to reach. And I just want to remind you that when Slow the Flow first came out, we actually partnered with, if I'm remembering correctly, Home Depot. And there were copies of the video that were made available through Home Depot. So anyone coming in to do their home improvement projects could get some ideas on ways that they could assist as well.
And I just want to compliment, this is a great video if you haven't seen it. And I liked it particularly because there was an emphasis on trees as helping to slow the flow. I mean, it wasn't just that you have to be a landscape engineer and figure out how to do swales in the right way. I mean, you can just do kind of normal planting and have an impact. So it makes it seem possible to actually do this on a big, broad scale.
So that means we're going to have a stormwater film festival at one of our future. Why not? I mean, you could have just showed them all.
You
We
just
could.
made Greg very happy.
I live to make
Margie.
Greg happy. I just want you to know.
So you should also know it's available on our website.
Yeah.
So that you can take a look at it if you haven't seen it. And there are a couple others that the Training Academy has done. One on trash, one on...
Right.
One on just the water boards in general that we used as a recruitment video, and it's actually extraordinarily well done.
Right.
Working for water.
No, we could, I mean, it depends, you have to figure out the total minutes, but you could actually show them at one of these meetings because, you know, there's a cast of thousands listening over the webcast who would, I'm sure, love to see it and watch. Really, I know. I'm sure we have an international audience at this point.
Actually, for the WQCC meeting 2 years ago, we showed the Working for Water video, and the board members statewide were very moved. I was moved by it as a film, and I think it really has helped to educate college students on the work that we do and the opportunities in it for a career in water.
Do you mind just, I know we can search through the web, but thank you for your help yesterday, by the way. I just could not find those things myself. I don't know why I don't navigate our website well. It's maybe there's a gear missing for me, but it'd be great. Greg sent me a bunch of links to some of the things, but if you guys could send us sort of greatest hits that we ought to have seen, of videos, that'd just be a nice thing to be able to keep it and click through it.
I'll have the Training
not too
Academy
trouble.
put a list together and provide it to all of you.
That'd be great.
And we'll include any external videos that we think were very helpful to us moving our core regulatory work forward.
Terrific. Great.
So additionally, last month I signed the Eagle Mountain Pump Storage Project 401 certification, and I understand we have received 3 petitions for reconsideration. So the ex parte curtain has fallen on that, and the board needs to pay attention to that issue, but I guess you'll probably be hearing that in a few months. And lastly, we have a nitrate treatment technology workshop scheduled for September 4th and 5th in this building, something we put together in combination with the Department of Public Health. So we've got a bunch of vendors coming and are going to be not demonstrating, but at least showing us some of the technology they have for nitrate removal and doing some presentations on it. And obviously the focus is going to be on small portable systems. So that's something that I think will help us move forward on this problem with nitrates.
And I will add, Mark Starr is going to be here, and both he and I are going to kick it off and close it down. So
Great.
That's great.
So that sums up my comments. If anyone had any questions about the Executive Director's report.
I had a comment/request. I noticed that the significant policies and permits table is no longer attached to the report. It's unfortunate because I do look at them, and it is very helpful. I know that there's a link, but the link goes to our intranet, so not only can I not access it on my iPad, neither can our stakeholders to whom I refer the executive director's report. So
So we'll put it back on the regular report, so
Thank
it
you.
can be viewed on a monthly basis.
And since I can't access it, let me ask. I had a meeting yesterday with some stakeholders who asked about the status of the wetlands policy. And I told them, oh, go to the director, executive director's report, and you can find the status there, and it's not there.
Well, the latest I've heard is that the plan is to try to release it in September of this year, but I haven't seen the redraft yet, so can't verify that that's something I'll be able to support, but that it would be released to the public in February of 2014 is the last I've seen of the schedule.
I'm sorry, so a draft will not be released to the public until February of 2014?
That's the schedule that was given to me by the Division of Water Quality, but I'll be looking into it and get back to you on it.
Thank you.
And yes, we just received the info that the link went to internal yesterday, and so we're changing it.
No, that's great. And if you don't mind, if you can bring copies of it to our next session, because I think we need it. Okay, good.
And with respect to the schedule, I think one of the issues with the wetlands policy is a question of its priority among other activities. So that might be a segue into the subsequent discussion we have coming up.
Right. Other question? Thanks. I also noticed there's sort of more narrative on some things in this one. This report is just great, I have to say, because it really, even though we don't talk about everything we do all the time at every meeting, and we're in constant briefings because there's so many things going on, but this is just such a nice way to pull it together, and I recognize, and here I'm talking to people who may be listening in who are not in the room who work here. I know it's a lot of work to pull this together every month, but it's incredibly important in being able to, I won't say quickly because it's hefty, but to have a sense of how to capture the myriad activities that are going on within the August body that we are. So thank you for it. It's really very important. Even if we don't ask questions every single time on it, on every single issue, it doesn't mean that we haven't read it and that it's not important to us. It is incredibly impressive. All right, if there are no further questions, my suggestion is we break. I'm going to say 20 minutes, so there's time for folks for bio breaks and getting hot liquid and getting together materials, and then we will reconvene, because I know we have people here. We will reconvene in room 230, which is just right back there. So see you all at 10:30.
We're moving. Why are we moving? Oh, okay. Do they need the room for something? It's just the one more item. Oh, that's fine. Okay. You can make us sit up at the front. We can do it. Okay, that's cool. How's it going? You are tan. Did you go on a vacation? Oh, yeah. You were what, camping? Who made you do that? I know the kids do, but who does all the work? You do? You what? My wife has 6 kids. Oh. She got 6. Oh, yeah. But, you know, I'm doing like international stuff too, which is kind of fun, you know. Like, I started with the UN Rio Plus last year, and I was following up on some of the stuff that they're doing this year, trying to get some of the stuff that I'm working on, you know, which, you know, and then a local level working with Mark Gold down in Santa Monica, trying to implement that ordinance. Mark's exactly the same. Yeah, no, Mark's great, yeah. But yeah, you know, for here, it's just, you know, just trying to get more into Lowe's work, especially because some of it's so touchy, you know, whatever. The attachment, you know, Scott, some of it's so time sensitive, you know, they're like out there, like, actually one of the keepers was out there counting, like, the tiny little samples that were flopping on the, you know. But the farmers are threatening to arrest her because they said, now it's completely dry, the stream bed. They said it's our land. Yeah, exactly. But she didn't even go in across the property. She went in like, yeah, but then just walking into it. So I'm like, what other would you talk about that? You know, I keep thinking, I was teaching in Vermont, and one of the things I do is sometimes I teach, like, so I was teaching a 2-credit class at Vermont Law School on stuff like law. Made it up. Oh, you went to Vermont Law School? It's a great school. I don't know how you made it through the winters, though. Oh, yeah, it rained a lot when I was there. But I'm like, look, when things get worse, you know, I mean, you know, we can do what I'm doing and, you know, just to try, you know, recognize nature and live close to land and all that stuff. I said, I call that the butterflies and unicorn route, you know? And I said, there's the other route, which is fortress mentality, you know, machine guns and big walls and, you know, this is ours and this is all dark and scary. I don't want to go there. It's the butterflies and unicorns. Wait, which one? Which one? Oh. Well, they just, you know, that's why, I mean, that's one of the reasons that I was asking for this report. It's like, you know, and so it's just something kind of basic, especially if they're trying to draft another water. It's just really just giant, just a little bit of help.